Okay.
Om Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashavaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhavignantiye Puritajana. Through lives that are scorched by the threefold misery, your words are like nectar. They destroy sin, they are auspicious to hear. They are praised by the sages. Those who spread thy words, O Lord, are the greatest benefactors. The gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, those who are following it with a copy of their own at home can turn to page 432 in the last section of the page. It was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the steps of the Shiva temples. Adhar, Dr. Nitai, M, and several other devotees were with him. It's interesting because it's in the month of May, and the month of May in India is hot. Before the monsoons, it's really hot. And Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the steps of the Shiva temple. Now these Shiva temple, there are 12 Shiva temples that are strung in a row, which are parallel to the river that flows down there. So there's a row of Shiva temples. There's an embankment, and then there's a river flowing down there. So there are 6, there's a small gap between the 6, and then there's the whole long row of Shiva temples stretches right across the courtyard, the temple courtyard. It's a massive courtyard. So Sri Ramakrishna was sitting there. I remember I don't know how many times I've sat down there. Yeah, whenever I used to go there, I used to love to sit down there. There is one Shiva temple which they say was the original Shiva temple that is closest to Sri Ramakrishna's room. Sri Ramakrishna's room is adjacent to the oldest Shiva temple. That's the one. So it's probably that they were sitting there. It's not mentioned where, but there's a flight of steps, stone steps. I think there are 7 or 8 steps, large steps. So it was month of May. He's probably sitting down there with the picture that we are used to seeing, with his cloth slung over his shoulder. That's the way he used to dress when he was in Dakshineshwar. So he is there with the devotees. Adhar was a deputy magistrate. Dr. Nitai, of course, and M, the recorder of the gospel. Master to the devotees, I want to tell you something. A change has been coming over my nature. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, what is Sri Ramakrishna's nature? Sri Ramakrishna's nature is a divine nature. All of us have 3 natures. The animal nature, the human nature and the divine nature within us. So people manifest their life force, their pranas, either on the animal plane, or the human plane, or the divine plane. So Sri Ramakrishna, when does that divine nature manifest in a person? When that person has devoted a greater part of his or her life to spirituality, the mind has become pure, it has renounced all types of maya. So this nature within the person manifests. That is ordinarily meant change is coming over my nature. If a person, ordinary person says, change is coming over my nature, yeah, good. Change is life. Things should change. Everything changes. Everything changes in this universe, and why not human beings also change? Mind changes. Sri Ramakrishna came down a step and sat near the devotee. So he was probably sitting, on a slightly higher flight of stairs there. Comes down. It's like, when you want to tell somebody something that is secretive, intense, and you want that person's attention, and you come close by, and so here Sri Ramakrishna is saying, you are devotees. I have no hesitation in telling you this. Now here it is. Now he is saying, you're a devotees. You all can understand it. Generally what happens is, we are asked to mix around with devotees. Sri Ramakrishna said devotees form a class by themselves. And you should not keep on telling what is your inner spiritual mood to people who don't appreciate it. They will deride you, or they'll say that's a figment of your imagination, or they'll bring some bad logic and dismiss the whole thing. They say, you need to see a psychiatrist. What's wrong with you? What you need is a little song and dance. And their arguments are so strong, materialistic arguments are very strong. Why? Because that's the standard, everybody is doing it. So devotees, they kind of detach themselves from such materialistic standards, and they form a kind of a group of their own, and then what do the devotees do? Like the Bhagavad Gita says that parasparas bodhanam, that is Tachintanam, they talk about God, they sing His glories, they chant His name, they discuss spiritual things. So he's saying, you are devotees, I have no hesitation in telling you this. So he is intending to communicate some deeper experiences to them. Nowadays, I don't see the spirit form of God. Sri Ramakrishna is to always see the spirit form of God, even from child. His father used to see the spirit form of God. His mother used to see the spirit form. It is kind of a family tradition. The Divine Mother, in a form of, you can say, Shitala, she used to go around with him in the form of a little girl with Sri Ramakrishna's father. And when he used to go to pluck flowers to worship that same Divine Mother. And sometimes she used to climb the tree and pull the branch down so he could pluck the flower easily. Father, here are the nice flowers. And his mother, she used to see so many forms of gods and goddesses, innumerable forms. So, Sri Ramakrishna, born from such parents, going to see the forms of God, spirit forms of God. What is the spirit form of God? Is that spirit that what do you say? No, that the word spirit and spirituality and spiritism has become so common. But these are, you can take them as divine forms. When you say spirit forms, these are divine forms. And we must understand that God has many forms. Here he says he's using it in the plural. I don't see the spirit form of God. So God has many forms. That's why they have many religions and many pathways in that religion. In Hinduism, 330 million gods, 33 million gods we have. Gods, everywhere gods. Here there's a god, there's a god there, there's a god there, there's a god there. All spirit form. It's not only that. Hinduism says everything is a spirit form. What you see as a material is actually, it's a wrong perception. It is a spiritual form. But here in this context, there are these innumerable gods and goddesses. So here Sri Ramakrishna, I don't see the spirit form. And in the gospel you come across the staggering visions of Sri Ramakrishna. Amazing. That has never been recorded in such intensity and such width. Why was that necessary? It was also necessary to re-authenticate the scriptures. You see what happened? The scriptures are told, the whole Ramayana and the whole Mahabharata, and you say, it's mythology. And we say, oh, mythology, myth. What kind of stories? Oh no. Sri Ramakrishna saw all these gods and goddesses. He saw Rama, he saw Krishna, he saw Shiva, he saw Kali, he saw, you can say, all the various forms, Bhairava, this and that, and oh my God. So when you read this, that the whole Ramayana is now re-authenticated. The Mahabharata and Bhagavata are re-authenticated. So there is a purpose also in seeing these spirit forms of God. So these spirit forms of God, he's saying, I don't see the spirit form of God. What? It is true. For an ordinary aspirant, that aspirant in one part of his or her spiritual life, they will see certain subtle spiritual forms. And then their forms and all, they will stop appearing. There is one stage in spiritual life that you will see. We don't have to make a big noise and show and dance about it. These things are there. It's only that we have not prepared ourselves to see these forms, the various forms of God. The various deities, various innumerable deities. So here it's saying God is revealed to me in human form. There it is. Yeah. This is the highest manifestation of God on this material plane. A human being. He is the palpable manifestation of God. Swami Vivekananda, towards the end, there was some staff that was hired to level the newly purchased grounds of Belur Mutt, the new monastery. And Swamiji used to love to go and, talk to them, listen to them. They also loved Swamiji. And Swamiji sometimes used to feed them. In one place he says, after so much of tapasya, spiritual austerities, I see that God is fully manifest in a human being. And this is what he preached, what Swami Vivekananda preached actually. To worship all the divine forms of God. Saying, these are the forms of God. Where seekest thou? In fact, very powerful, you can say, words. So he speaks about it as Premamoy, that is, the forms of God manifest here, which are the forms of love. And over, and he designed the new religion for this age based on seeing God in human beings. Sri Ramakrishna also has preached this, that everything is Narayana. Everything is worship. How do you worship it? Well, you serve that. Serve human beings as manifestations of God. So here, Sri Ramakrishna is saying, this is kind of remarkable. So he's saying, nowadays I don't see the spirit form of God. He is revealed to me in human form. This morning we are discussing. So he's saying, Sri Ramakrishna, whether you know it or not, you are Rama. Tumi jano ya na jano, tumi Rama. You know it. If you know it, good enough. If you don't know it, you'll know it after some time. So what is here then? This is the forms of God. Oh, there are hundreds and hundreds. They are all coming examples here. Anyway, we will. It is my nature to see the form of God, to touch and to embrace Him. There. You see? There's a change in His nature, you're saying. It was His nature to see the forms of God, to touch and embrace Him. And all through we have Him. Somebody says or utters the name of Kali or Shiva, or somebody sings some songs, hymns of course, and he used to immediately get into the state of bhava, samadhi, and he used to see those forms of God. A slight suggestion, anything would just lift his mind, and so he was used to saying, it is my nature to see the form of God, to touch and embrace Him. God is saying to me, quote, you have assumed a body, therefore enjoy God through His human forms. Here it is. And people say, does God exist? Yeah. Where seekest thou God? Here He is. Here with 1,000 eyes and 1,000 heads and 1,000 limbs and 1,000, everywhere is this path of God. This is what is called a state of ultra knowledge, vijnana. When the person descends down to this plane and sees everything as manifestations of God. everything, it's not only human being, everything in this world is a manifestation of God. And in those, the highest reading is in the human being. That's why people say, people don't understand, don't appreciate what human life is. Sometimes I feel sad, I feel sorry also, sometimes I feel pity also, that they have not understood and appreciated their own life. To be born as a human, it has taken that soul many, many births, many struggles to get into this human body. And how people not only disrespect, disregard, and they don't understand what is there within them. Yes, this is a great lesson for all of us. Human life has become so cheap. Human life is can be discarded anything. Why all this crime and why all this murder? Why all this injustice? Why against people? It has been the history, but now we know better. We should know better. That God in heaven that you have been worshipping there, here that God is here. You are mistaken of the whole thing, saying that God in heaven is my God and that God in that heaven is my God. What's wrong with this sentiment? It's completely wrong. It's a crude, can say, level of understanding of God. Sri Ramakrishna says, people say first, they start with, God is there outside me and I pray. The second stage is, God is within me. That's the second stage. The third stage is, God has become all these things. So the human form can directly express that divinity. Why? Because God, as it were, has gone inside. And He's, oh my God, there are hundreds of examples. Like once Latu Maharaj sitting down like this, Swami Adbhutananda. See, it's like God is sitting down like this. And Sri Ramakrishna will see this form of God as manifested in people. And this is supposed to revolutionize our ideas of religion and revolutionize our ideas of worship and revolutionize our ideas about ourselves. We have to completely change what we think of ourselves. As weak, as stupid, as lazy, as... Stop thinking about yourself as this. The moment you start changing your own perceptions about yourself, there you are. Everything else will vanish. All weaknesses, all stupidity and all these things. This is the highest experience a person can have, to see God in human beings. Sri Ramakrishna's disciple Swami Shardananda, when he was asked, what type of realization would you like? So he says, Sarva Bhute Brahma Darshan. I want to see that Brahman in all beings. So Sri Ramakrishna said, oh my God, that's the last word in spiritual life. I want that, nothing else. Sri Ramakrishna was being, say, yeah, you get it. This is the last word in spiritual life. This is the first word in spiritual life. This is the middle word in spiritual life. This is everything in spiritual life. This is the new type of worship. And that's what Swamiji says. He said, if I ever get a chance to preach what I've heard today, Sri Ramakrishna was in the state of bhava. When he's saying the doctrines of the Vaishnavas, a sect of, religious sect. So, he's saying one of that, okay, Jive Daya, we can say Jive Daya, that what, compassion to you. So Sri Ramakrishna goes into a state of bhava. Compassion? Compassion? Who are you? You worm to show compassion to others? Serve the jivas as Shiva. That is what it is. Shiva Jnani Jiva Seva. Serve the jivas with the thought that this is Shiva. So he also says, Shiva bound is Jiva. Jiva freed is Shiva. There are hundreds of songs also. Jay, Jeev, She, Shiv. That which is Jiva is actually Shiva. So Sri Ramakrishna, his kind of, there's a change in his mental, spiritual outlook. Those spirit forms of God that he was used to seeing from since he was a child. Now there's a next development, the logical development. So Sri Ramakrishna also says, if I close my eyes and try to see God, why can't I see God with open eyes? What's that? Only God is only inside. God is everywhere. So this is the core message of Vedanta. And Swamiji preached this message that this world is divine. You are divine. Swamiji says, gods will play with gods. Imagine. It will become a heaven on earth here. Why do you need to go anywhere out for that matter? All the terrors of life and like disease and old age and death, all these things, what are you talking about? That's like a mirage. Essentially, you are the divine there. So God has become the one God has become the many. It's like, how can the one become the many? The one has become many. This is the teaching of the Upanishad also. Eko ham bhavishyama. I am one. Let me be many. And he became many. So God became many. So all these forms, everything is the form of God. So here you have, if God becomes the many, God is mutable. Yeah, don't worry about that Vedanta now. That mutability is seen through Maya. What you are seeing is actually one. Unity in variety is a plan of creation, yes. And in that creation you see that one consciousness. And Sri Ramakrishna will see that consciousness even wriggling in a fish also. So here he continues. God is saying to me, quote, you have assumed a body, therefore enjoy God through his human form, end of quote. This is what it is. And this is also what is supposed to be for us. So he continues, God, no doubt, dwells in all, but God manifests himself more through man than through any other being. Here it is. Swami Vivekananda says, immediate salvation is not possible for a cow or any other animal, because that cow, those minds have not taken the chitta, the mind stuff, has not taken the form of consciousness, self-consciousness. consciousness can reflect on itself. So, in human beings, this is possible. It's not only the human beings that direct manifestation of God is here in the human being. We don't have to feel superior about it. Oh, see, we are so good. No, those are also forms of God. So here he says, is the human an insignificant thing? The human can think of God, can think of the infinite, while other living beings cannot. God exists in other living beings, animals, plants, nay, in all beings, here. But God exists, God manifests himself more through a human than through these others. And this is, you can see, this itself is sufficient. You don't need to read the whole book also. My God. Everywhere there's consciousness. What is consciousness? People are saying, what is consciousness? What is consciousness? Searching, what is consciousness? We call consciousness God consciousness. Oh, the person dies, the consciousness goes away. That person dies, the consciousness does not go away. The consciousness goes to another body and lifts it up. Everything has consciousness. Prajnanam Brahma. Everything has consciousness. This is the teaching of the Upanishad. This is the and that's what, Swami Vivekananda says. Sri Ramakrishna is the commentary of the Vedas. In him, you can understand the Vedas very clearly. When you see, why isn't a human being not only has that consciousness manifested, God's consciousness manifested, but in the human being, all the 7 planes of higher planes are also the human being is a microcosm of the whole universe. You want to study the universe? Study the human being. Study the various subtle realms. You will see them in the human being. The same realms are outside also. Yes, the whole plan of this universe is built in such a way that the human being is a microcosm. And what is in the microcosm is in the macrocosm. So how do you know there's a helium in the sun? Well, we'll saw it through the spectrum, the absorption. The absorption lines in the spectrum that shows that, helium, there's hydrogen there. You never had to go to that sun there. You get fried, of course, if you go there. People say, how do you know that there's helium in the sun? Well, you can know it here. How do you know there's a God? There is a God here. That person can realize God here. So what is in the macrocosm is here in the microcosm. So here he is saying, man, a human being can think of the infinite. Is a human an insignificant thing? A human being can think of God. See, we are thinking of God, see? Is that an insignificant thing? That's why anybody who takes the name of God, in whatever fashion, yes, that person can think. And they'll say, why do people still believe in religion? Science has disproved that all these things are hoax, all these things are mythologies, all these things are nothing but Bronze Age dreams of Bronze Age civilization. Yeah, and people are coming away from religion. In a way, institutionalized religion has its advantages and drawbacks also. Why are people believing in all this religion? This will be the religion of the future. You don't need to go to a particular sect or a tradition or a temple or a church or a mosque or a synagogue. You don't have to. Religion is in your own heart. Swami Vivekananda said it's an eternal relationship between the eternal soul and eternal God. Here, religion has become palpable, tangible to you. So this is what it is. Can think of the infinite. Yes, imagine how you can think of this vastness. So he said, fire exists in all beings. Yeah, fire exists in all beings. In all things. Fire exists in all beings, in all things, but its presence is felt more in wood. There. So, fire, yeah, everywhere, there's an element of fire everywhere. Like the Pancha Mahabhuta, the 5 great elements, and there's the admixture everywhere. Felt more in wood. So, it's like that. Even the Upanishads, like fire, and one fire entering the world becomes multiform. Agnir yataiko bhuvana pravishta rupam rupam pratirupa bahishta ekastata sarva bhuta antaratma rupam rupam pratirupa bahishta. So like fire entering this world takes on various forms. Similarly, the one soul entering into everything becomes many forms, yet it transcends everything. So consciousness is only not limited to living beings and things and everything. These things do not exhaust the divine. That divine transcends it. Atyatishta dashangulam. So, he's there, and yet he transcends everything. So, Sri Ramakrishna says, Rama said to Lakshmana, look at that elephant, brother. He is such a big animal, but he cannot think of God. There, it gives you an idea. It's not that, oh, that guy cannot think of God, so it's not that. We are fortunate that we have had a human birth, a human body. Swami Vivekananda says, even the gods are jealous. Even they want to get a human body. And you've got it. If the gods clamor for a human body, imagine what it is. And here we are wasting our time and life. Yeah, we've kind of neglected ourselves thoroughly. And not only neglected ourselves, we don't treat others also. The way you treat yourself, that same way you'll treat the others also. It's like that. So this is a radical shift in our perception about what is divinity, what is God, what is a human being, what is religion, and what will be the mode of future civilization, future cultures. What will be the future culture of human culture? What will be human culture? People will be flying in these robo cars, and they might not be people also. People might be sitting at home doing something else, send a hologram somewhere. And a kind of a very plastic, a very mechanical view of culture and life. Now when you bring in these teachings, what will the future of humanity be? This. People will recognize themselves as divine and treat each other as divine. This will be human culture. It cannot die out, because the divine is imperishable. You cannot kill God. God is in every. You cannot kill God. That God is going to push you through it. And sometimes we see the whole processes of history, or you can say the history of countries and civilizations. We are, as it were, being pushed into one direction by nature. We are kind of helpless. We think we've got a lot of powers. We don't have, not too much powers. We are being oriented towards it. And that's what the whole Swami Vivekananda says. Page after page of nature turns before you. What turns? Nature, with her various stories. You are the reader of that book. And when the book is over, nature closes the book. So nature is working for your liberation. Go through all these experiences. And once you finish it, get going, get out. Out. So this is a human being. What a grand vision. They're saying, does God exist? Only God exists. Nothing else exists. We say it. Does God exist? Some people come and does God exist? Only God exists. What do you mean only God exists? Yes. You have no ideas about existence. Your ideas of existence are only limited to, if I get my food and sleep and etc., I don't care for everything else. My existence is limited only to my own ego. And so and then is some bigger ego than me? This is actually what it is. So our ideas of existence, our ideas of knowledge will keep on expanding and expanding and expanding when we bring in this idea that yes, God has directly manifested in human beings. This will be then appreciation of all life. All life will be valued, venerated. You don't want killing everybody. You take plastics and you throw it out. You finished, you had a nice cake and came out with a nice plastic wrapper and you ate that cake. And then you threw that plastic out and that plastic went and killed some beings. And this is what it is. Oh no! You're leaving your footprints all over the place. We are more destructive. Everything we do, everything we talk about, everything. Human beings are so destructive. We try to destroy each other and we try to destroy the environment, we destroy all life. And now we are, they say, in the sixth mass extinction. We are already in the middle of this mass extinction. And who is responsible for it? Oh, this is human beings, this stupid fellow. But inside that stupidity is, Sri Ramakrishna says, there was during the rainy season, the temple authorities used to give permission for these farmers or those pastoralists, those who had this dairy, they could cut the grass, and take it and feed it to the cows. So it helped them and it helped the temple authorities also cut those lawns, huge grass. So one time, one person, he cut so much grass and he was bundling it, and he was an old person, sick and weak, and he was trying to lift that huge bundle of grass, because it was free, he cut a lot of it. And he couldn't lift it up. And Sri Ramakrishna saw that person struggling to lift it up, and he goes into samadhi. Saying that Atman, full of knowledge, is inside, and there's so much stupidity outside. We are in that same predicament. That Atman, the infinite existence, consciousness, bliss, that Godhead is there, and there's so much stupidity outside. Look at us, how we behave, like, kind of, we are not aware. So, like, yeah, suppose you have a tummy ache, people have tummy ache. I don't have it any. But if you have tummy ache and you keep on walking and moving around and working and all, people will notice that there's something wrong with you, kind of a tummy ache. Then he asks, what's wrong with you? I've got a tummy ache. So what is inside manifests outside. Suppose you're angry, people can say, oh, the guy's an angry guy. So once you have this knowledge that God is manifest in me, that will change your behavior, your character, your activities, your dealings with interaction with people. Everything will become transformed. This is spirituality. Suddenly closing your eyes and what kind of spirituality is this? Sometimes I feel kind of stupid. Close your eyes and somebody comes and he starts shouting, hey, what's that? What happened? Just now you're taking God's name and suddenly you're an angry person there. Until unless you don't have this bedrock of this knowledge that God is present there within you, your japa and closing eyes and half the time you're sleeping will not lead you anywhere. First you have to put this down and then you have to put on spiritual practices. Otherwise the spiritual practice will be just washed away by your emotions and you can see other instincts. The basic bedrock is absent and we are trying to build a skyscraper now. Let's build a skyscraper. You know what's going to happen to the skyscraper? Yeah. Like magicians, the real magicians, they have a big stage and they show magic on a large scale. The small time magicians, they come with their cards, pick up a card, and a kind of a small time magician. That guy has to still graduate to a big time magician. The spirituality also is like this. Close your eyes and meditate. What's this? What kind of spirituality is this? Spirituality has to be dynamic. It has to be living. It has to be transformative. This is what spirituality is. And this will transform us, the world, the culture, society, future, everything. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
I have a question here. I'm new to study Vedanta. I would like some books to study. What books?
Read Swami Vivekananda's books. What is Vedanta? What religion is? Jnana Yoga, lectures on Vedanta. So this is the first grounding you need when you are going to study Vedanta. The basic things are taught here. So read them. They are in modern language and in modern, you can say, idiom. Tat Sat.